Every single night, without fail they switch on. Millions of them. Lining every road, every highway, every forgotten alley and every city on Earth. You have walked past them thousands of times without a second thought. But here is the question nobody seems to ask. Who is actually behind them? Not just the bulbs. Not just the poles. The entire invisible system that keeps them burning, hour after hour, night after night, year after year. Because here is something strange. In cities around the world, there are street lights that nobody owns. Lights that appear on no official map, connected to no known grid, maintained by no traceable company. They simply exist. They have existed for decades. And yet every night they turn on. How is that possible? And what does it tell us about the hidden industry quietly operating in the dark? Introducing the mystery. Think about the last time you actually looked at a street light. Not glanced at it. Actually looked. Examined the pole, the fixture, the faint hum of electricity coursing through it. Probably never. And that is exactly the point. Street lights are designed to be invisible to conscious thought. They are background infrastructure, the kind of thing your brain filters out alongside fire hydrants and drain covers. But what if that invisibility is not accidental? What if the system behind streetlights is so deliberately complex, so quietly vast, that most people never realize how much money, technology, and hidden power surrounds those simple glowing bulbs? Every night, approximately 360 million streetlights illuminate the roads of the world. 360 million individual points of light, each one connected to a web of suppliers, engineers, city contracts, energy companies, and technology firms. The moment the sun dips below the horizon, a system worth hundreds of billions of dollars silently activates. And almost nobody thinks about it. Consider the street light outside your home right now. Who installed it? Who replaces the bulb when it fails? Who monitors whether it is functioning correctly at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday? Who pays the electricity bill? The answer to each of these questions leads deeper into an industry that operates entirely in plain sight, while remaining almost completely unknown to the people it serves every single night. Now return to that strange detail from the hook. Those unmapped street lights in cities around the world, connected to no official grid, maintained by no known contractor, and yet perfectly functional decade after decade. Urban engineers have documented them. Electricians have stumbled upon them. City officials have scratched their heads over them. What are they? Where do they come from? And why does their existence point directly to something far larger and more surprising than anyone expects? Building suspense, let us start with the numbers, because the numbers themselves are staggering. The United States alone operates roughly 45 million streetlights. The European Union maintains approximately 90 million. China, currently in the middle of the largest urban lighting expansion in human history, has already surpassed 180 million streetlights and is adding more every single month. When you add developing nations' rural electrification projects, highway systems, and coastal infrastructure, the global total climbs toward 500 million individual fixtures. 500 million. That is more streetlights on Earth than there are cars. More streetlights than there are households in North America and Europe combined. Now ask yourself, what does it take to maintain 500 million lights? Each fixture has an average lifespan of somewhere between 15 and 25 years, depending on the technology used. Each one requires installation, electrical connection, periodic inspection, bulb or LED replacement, pole maintenance, and grid monitoring. In a city of just 1 million people, there might be 50,000 street lights. Managing those lights requires dedicated infrastructure teams, software systems, energy contracts with utility providers, and ongoing capital expenditure that never stops. Never. Because somewhere in that city, a light is failing right now. A sensor is malfunctioning. A pole is rusting at its base. A circuit is drawing more power than it should. And this is where things begin to get genuinely strange. Because who exactly is responsible for all of this? In most cities, the answer is not simple. Streetlight infrastructure is often split between multiple overlapping authorities. The city government might own some poles. A private utility company might own others. A third-party maintenance contractor might be responsible for a specific district. A technology company might have installed a smart lighting network on top of the existing grid, creating an entirely separate layer of management. The boundaries between these systems are often blurry, poorly documented, and surprisingly old. Some cities are still operating street light contracts that were signed in the 1970s. Some poles standing on busy urban roads today were installed before the internet existed, before GPS, before the concept of remote monitoring was even imaginable. And yet they still illuminate the road every single night. How? Who is making sure they work? And does the fragmented, layered nature of this infrastructure help explain those mysterious lights that appear on no official map at all? How the industry actually works. To understand the hidden industry behind street lights, you need to understand how deeply it is divided. This is not one business. It is a chain of interconnected industries, each one feeding the next, stretching from raw material extraction all the way to the photon of light that lands on the pavement outside your door tonight. It begins with manufacturers. Companies like Signify, formerly known as Philips Lighting, General Electric's current lighting division, Osram, Cree, and dozens of regional manufacturers produce the actual fixtures and light sources. These are billion-dollar operations with global supply chains, research departments, and patent portfolios. The shift from traditional sodium vapor lamps to LED technology over the past 15 years alone represents one of the most significant infrastructure transformations in modern urban history. Cities worldwide spent hundreds of billions of dollars upgrading their street lighting to LED, and every single one of those contracts passed through manufacturers like these. But manufacturing is just the beginning. Once the fixtures exist, someone has to win the contract to install them. This is where infrastructure firms enter the picture. Large construction and electrical companies bid on city contracts that can run into the tens of millions of dollars for a single metropolitan area. These contracts are competitive, politically complex, and often contentious, because the company that installs the lights frequently wins the long-term maintenance contract as well. And maintenance contracts for street lighting can last 10, 15, even 20 years. That is a guaranteed revenue stream, paid by the city, funded by taxpayers for 2 decades. Then there is the layer that most people never think about at all: smart lighting technology. Over the past decade, a new wave of technology companies has entered the street lighting industry by selling sensor networks that attach to existing poles. These systems allow city managers to monitor every individual light in real time, detecting failures instantly, adjusting brightness based on traffic or weather, and reducing energy consumption by up to 50%. Companies like Talensa, Itron, and Urban Control have built entire business models around this concept. But here is what makes smart lighting genuinely fascinating. When a city installs a sensor network on its street lights, those poles suddenly become data collection points. They can monitor pedestrian traffic. They can detect air quality changes. Some systems integrate microphones and cameras. The street light, that humble piece of infrastructure you walk past without a thought, has quietly become one of the most powerful nodes in the emerging smart city network. And the companies managing those networks are accumulating data on urban life at a scale that would have seemed extraordinary just 20 years ago. The massive global scale. How large is this industry really? The global street lighting market was valued at approximately $14 billion annually as of the early 2020s. Projections suggest it will exceed $25 billion by the end of this decade. That growth is being driven by 3 forces: the ongoing LED transition in developing nations, the expansion of smart lighting infrastructure in wealthy cities, and the electrification of rural areas across Africa and Southeast Asia, where hundreds of millions of people still live without reliable street lighting at all. Consider the cost of maintaining a single city's lighting network. Los Angeles operates around 220,000 streetlights. The city spends roughly $15 million every year just on electricity for those lights. Maintenance adds millions more. When LA undertook its LED conversion program, the project cost over $57 million. It was, at the time, the largest municipal LED street lighting conversion in American history. And Los Angeles is just one city in one country on one continent. Multiply that scale globally, and the numbers become almost incomprehensible. Energy consumption alone tells the story. Street lighting accounts for approximately 19% of global electricity used for lighting overall. In some developing nations, streetlights represent the single largest item in a municipal energy budget. Governments around the world collectively spend over $47 billion annually on street lighting electricity. That is not infrastructure investment. That is the recurring annual cost simply to keep existing lights burning. The companies supplying that electricity, and the technology firms helping cities reduce that consumption, are operating in one of the most quietly lucrative sectors of urban infrastructure. Why does this industry remain invisible to public consciousness despite its extraordinary scale? Because it operates entirely on the infrastructure of the mundane. The mysterious detail return now to those unmapped lights. The ones connected to no official grid, claimed by no known authority, and yet burning reliably night after night. Urban researchers who have investigated this phenomenon have found a surprising explanation. Not a satisfying one yet, but a direction. In many cases, these lights trace back to ownership disputes. A road was reclassified. A district boundary shifted. A private development was absorbed into public land. And in the administrative confusion, a cluster of streetlights fell through the gap between authorities. Nobody claimed them. Nobody decommissioned them either. And because streetlight contracts are so long-running, so layered with subcontractors and utility agreements, the electricity feeding those lights kept flowing. Somewhere in a billing system, a line item continued being paid, by an account that nobody actively monitored, connected to an administrative record that nobody thought to close. The lights stayed on because the system maintaining them was too complex, and too old for anyone to notice the anomaly. But that explanation, while partially true, does not cover every case. Because some of those unmapped lights are genuinely new. Installed within the past decade, appearing in cities that run modern digital infrastructure management systems. How does a brand new street light appear in a city with real-time monitoring software, and end up on no official record? That question pulls at something deeper. Something about how the street lighting industry actually operates when contracts are rushed, when political pressure drives rapid deployment, and when the line between public infrastructure and private initiative becomes deliberately blurred. The big reveal here is the truth those mysterious lights are pointing toward. In cities around the world, private companies have discovered that installing streetlights is, in certain circumstances, an extraordinarily effective way to establish long-term infrastructure rights on public land. A company installs lights, often as part of a broader smart city proposal or a public-private partnership agreement. The lights work. The city benefits. But the ownership remains with the company. The data gathered by those polls belongs to the company. And when the contract eventually comes up for renewal, the city faces a choice. Pay the company's terms or lose the infrastructure it has come to depend on entirely. Those unmapped lights are often the evidence of this dynamic in its earliest stage. Lights installed under arrangements that were never formally documented, never properly registered, but fully functional and quietly gathering data from day one. The hidden industry behind streetlights is not simply about manufacturing or maintenance. It is about the slow, patient accumulation of infrastructure rights in public spaces by private entities operating just below the threshold of public awareness. Every pole is a foothold. Every sensor is leverage. And every night those lights turn on, that leverage grows slightly stronger. Powerful ending, so the next time you walk beneath a street light, ask yourself something. Who does it belong to? Not in the legal sense. In the real sense. Who benefits from it being there? Who is watching through it, learning from it, profiting from the data it collects about your movement through the city? That simple orange glow has become the front line of something much larger than illumination. It is infrastructure politics. It is urban data sovereignty. It is the quiet negotiation between public need and private ambition, playing out on every street corner of every city on Earth, every single night, while most of us simply walk on through the dark without ever once looking up. The world is full of systems hiding in plain sight. And sometimes, the most powerful ones are the ones you have been walking past your entire life.